What would you do if a student cursed you out during class?
What would you do if you found an inappropriate drawing?
What would you do if a student took a personal call during art class?
What would you do if a student made fun of you in front of the class?
Today, we're sharing some of our best behavior tips
to foster a respectful studio.
Hi, art teachers.
Hey, art teachers.
I'm Kyle Wood, an elementary art teacher in the Chicago area.
I'm Liz Brent, and I'm a secondary art teacher in the Chicagoland area.
I got my current job after a beloved art teacher had retired. During my first year, a second grader looks me dead in the eyes and goes, "I liked my old teacher better." My first thought was to say, I like the students who don't insult me better. But thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. I'm just gonna be the best art teacher I can be, and I'm not gonna try to compete with that.
Welcome to the Art of Ed's Draw the Line,
where we tackle the wild and tricky behavior situations
art teachers face every day.
What would you do if a student made fun of you in front of the class?
When anyone makes fun of you, it's natural to feel hurt. As an educator, you have to maintain appropriate boundaries. You're the adult and the authority in the room, so you gotta keep your cool. I would ignore the substance of the insult, but really focus on the tone. Try telling the class something like, "My art room is a space where everybody must be treated with kindness and respect," because the path to success comes from a supportive community where everyone recognizes the good and builds out from there. Students need a supportive space to experiment, to learn and grow, and if people make fun of others, it makes them afraid to take risks. That gets in the way of their learning, and that's not fair to them.
Take the time to familiarize yourself with your district and school's student code of conduct. Use this document to help determine appropriate behaviors, consequences, and expectations. Be sure to follow all district and school policies regarding student behavior and disciplinary action.
Building that respectful and supportive classroom community starts with building positive relationships and modeling respect for your students. The set expectations not only in your teaching of the rules at the beginning of the year, but also show respect for the students every day. Listen to what students are talking about and remind students of the expectations in little ways throughout the lesson. For example, when you talk about art history, maybe include anecdotes about how the artist might have faced criticism. I like to point to Vincent van Gogh as an example because he struggled greatly during his lifetime. He had friends who supported him, like Emile Bernard, who said, quote, "Van Gogh is the most extraordinary colorist of our time. He uses color with boldness that no one else dares to." And that really helps students to get the importance of a supportive environment, not just like as a classroom exercise, but as a life skill and goal. We regularly talk about our core values of being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. Constantly repeating those 4 words helps to make sure that the expectations are clear and consistent across all different settings. Decorate your room with posters that set the positive tone and remind students what you want to see and hear in your classroom. You can even use your wardrobe.
What would you do if you found an inappropriate drawing?
There's a lot of room for interpretation in quite a few works of art that pass through my classroom.
If I know who made the drawing, I would speak with that student one-on-one and I would say, "Tell me about the art you made." This would allow them to clarify any misunderstanding. Next, I will revisit the class norms and discuss what we do in class and how it should be related to things that are respectful and kind. If this is a one-time thing, I'll leave the conversation at that. But if it becomes a repeated behavior, then I would turn it into a class discussion.
As students begin independent work on a project, the most common questions they're going to ask are, "Can I do this? Can I do that?" Always respond with a reminder that things created in school must stay appropriate for school. I'm always looking for a way to say yes to their requests, but I always set firm boundaries like no weapons or violence. Assuming it was an intentionally inappropriate drawing, students become very uncomfortable having to explain why they find a piece of human anatomy humorous. After they concede that there's no merit to the work, I explain that if there's no reason to do something, they shouldn't be doing it. But I also like to sometimes send pictures to parents. If they make something parents need to see for other reasons besides greatness, I'll send those too. The only reason to investigate further would be if the image were targeted at an individual or you notice some other red flags.
Emphasize that in art, imagery could change based on context. For example, drawing a picture of someone in class and making fun of them is not kind or appropriate. However, creating a drawing of a generic person being made fun of could share a story of challenges a person could face and have a deeper meaning. Ask students, what are some examples of controversial imagery that could change with context? One way I establish a culture of respect at the beginning of the year is to provide opportunities for students to work together in groups, listen to each other, and share out often. One activity that works well is play a game of Sculptionary. So they are given a piece of clay and I give them a random prompt of something they have to sculpt. And then I teach them how to talk about what they see and not necessarily about the artist's skill or anything. They give everybody time to say what they need to say. And that's just one way to build respect. What would you do if a student made a mean joke or made fun of a peer?
First off, I'm gonna check in with the victim and make sure that I address any needs that they might have. Then I'm gonna stop class and address the need for all of us to be kind and respectful.
While we want to empower you to manage challenging behaviors in the art room, art teachers are not licensed therapists or counselors. Sometimes you need extra support and resources. Don't hesitate to connect with your administrator, department chair, art supervisor, or professional school counselor if you have any questions.
I'll draw attention away from the victim by sharing a personal story. I remember growing up, my art teacher telling me that my drawings looked freakish. And she said, I should give up on art and focus on the subjects I was actually good at. There's usually a bit of shock, and I'll let them sit in that for a bit. But then I'll go on to talk about how after that critique that made me feel so small, I had friends who built me back up, and they gave me the strength that I needed to persist in this field that I absolutely love. We need a community that grows together, and that only happens when we're giving constructive feedback that acknowledges the good and offers advice to make things even better. Like a lot of soft skills, teaching students to give constructive feedback takes time, but it is an investment that pays off long term. Scaffold the critique process by modeling and explicitly teaching how to have productive conversations. I'm gonna be honest, this is an area I struggled with early in my career, but there are tons of great articles in the magazine that can help you learn how to structure positive student conversations.
I'm a big fan of starting the year with a big collaborative project. It gets them working and problem solving together, recognizing and respecting other people's contributions, and building up from there. Because that's the tone I want to have in my classroom, a collaborative environment where people are supporting each other to build something great together.
What would you do if a student cursed you out in front of the class? Be calm and de-escalate. In this moment, it is very important not to react emotionally, but instead with a calm, firm, and neutral tone. Say something to the student like, I see that you're frustrated and I understand that you're upset. You have two choices. You can speak with me now with a respectful tone and words, or you can take a break first. What would you like to do? Allow them time to decide, can they respond respectfully in the moment, or do they need to just take a step back for a second? To be proactive, check in on students for any frustrations before they arise. I'll look for students who are sitting doing nothing, looking angry, or engaging in off-task behaviors. If you notice any upset students, check in with them to find out the reason. Sometimes their frustrations are tied to what they're working on, but sometimes there are things outside the classroom that are negatively affecting their ability to focus. Build relationships with students so that the better you know them, the more easily you can tell when something is bothering them. What would you do if you caught a student taking a video of you or another student without permission?
Be sure to follow district and school policies regarding cell phones and other personal electronic devices.
I would immediately direct that student to stop recording and put the phone away. If school policy allows, direct them to put it in a neutral storage space away from them to prevent it from happening again. Next, take that student aside away from the class and speak to them in a direct tone. Remind them of the school's cell phone and recording policies. Ask them how they would feel if someone did that to them, and then ask them to delete the video. To be proactive, establish routines and policies regarding phone use. Remind students that this is a cell phone-free zone and that we are here to learn and create. Have a designated area where phones can be stored at all times, preventing issues like this in the future. Incorporate time for students to put phones away as they enter the room so that you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the class period.
Get ahead of disrespect in the art room with strong proactive routines and procedures. Discover ones that really work and learn how to follow through with logical consequences in the Pro Pack Behavior Management at the Elementary Level. Click the link below to learn more about how you can get access to those professional development videos.
What would you do if a student destroyed an art supply?
I'm gonna start by removing the supplies just to mitigate the harm. But then I might ask the students to come talk to me privately. I'd start by saying something like, "You seem to be frustrated. I noticed you broke the pencil or whatever it is. What's going on? Are you ready to talk about it now or do you need a moment first?" If they're not ready to talk, I might ask them, do they want to just take a few deep breaths or do they want to take a walk over and get a drink from the drinking fountain? You want to give them some sense of control, but limited options. Make sure it's things that you're comfortable with and give them clear and concrete choices. After they've calmed down enough to talk, give them options for reintegration. You might say something like, "You can wipe up the paint you smeared on the table and then try again with this project." Or as an alternative, you could use markers and then just paint over it with water to get an ink wash. Think about what you feel up for, and I'll be back in a minute to check in. Often destructive behavior is not so much about students being really malicious. They're just impulsive and not thinking about how their actions are going to affect others. Make sure you emphasize the community aspect of the art room to help them become more mindful of how their actions will affect the broader school community. You might give a prompt like, "When your supply bin is organized and ready for the next class, look up at me to show me you're ready to line up."
What would you do if a student took a personal call during art class?
In my experience, this is one of those situations that is best handled by walking directly to the student and quietly asking them to please hang up. Keep the conversation just between you and the student, stand close to them until they do hang up, and then ask them to put their phone away. To be proactive at the beginning of the year, have rules and expectations in place about proper phone use. Have a place and routine for students to put their phones away as soon as they enter the room to help alleviate these issues in the future.
We love to learn and grow together as a community, so be sure to leave comments below. Share your best tips on how you draw the line on respect in your art room.
If you don't want to miss any more of our best behavior tips to help you draw the line in your art room, be sure to like this video and subscribe to The Art of Ed.
Check out the next episode where we talk about physical safety.
Stay tuned and see you in the next video.